Welcome to the Scuttlebutt, and welcome back for those returnees, I guess. Appreciate you guys. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. It made me think of that today because of the guests I got on today. We got a little fun in store planned for you guys, so I appreciate it. Hope you guys like it. I'll just, instead of fucking up his intro, I'll just hand it over to him. New guest, but longtime friend. What do you want, man? You want like a mic name or anything?
I'm Theron, man. That's what everybody's always called me. Everybody in person calls me that, so let's just go with that.
Nice. I like it, Theron. Perfect. For the sake of anonymous continuity and all that good stuff, right?
It's the same way you're going to find me everywhere else.
Nice. It was your idea to do the, to introduce or start the introductions off with a drink, like I did in episode 1 and we did on the last episode. I loved the idea. So I got whiskey in front of me, an Irish whiskey. It's got a Founder's Reserve on the bottle here. What about you? What are you sipping on?
So it's actually a little early where I'm at right now. So I'm not actually drinking on any alcohol, but I am smoking. I've got this nice White Widow joint that's by High State Farms, and it's really mellow. It's definitely getting my head right for the podcast.
Nice. Yeah, never too early where we're from in the military. Any day that you're not on call or on duty or whatever, that's a drinking day. But what is it, like 9 a.m. over there?
Yep, it's about 9 a.m. And to be honest with you, with the whole stay-at-home order thing we've had going on recently, it's kind of been like airport rules at my house. You could just get up and drink whenever you want and wear your PJs all day, and no one really cares if you fall asleep on the couch.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. For those for the audience members joining us, yeah, this isn't all in-house. I'm still stationed where I'm stationed, and Theron is over on the West Coast, 9 a.m. It's crazy. This time difference always throws me for a loop every time we talk.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It makes scheduling a little funky, but I'm glad we figured it out.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I said we were gonna do a little meta fun, so I figured, I guess introducing an old friend, one of the first like humans I ever befriended after arriving here. I figured that's like one of the coolest things to start this whole concept off with, right? I mean, what would you say to, prior to not knowing me, an alien?
It was definitely a huge change. We go way back. I would say that I've known you pretty much since you landed, and it definitely made a huge impact in my life. I remember at first there was a little bit of like conflict, but then once we clicked, we've been fast friends, and even now you're halfway across the world and we still talk regularly. But I guess that's probably not very far in your terms.
After a couple, million light years, but
right? Well, it's half a globe.
Yeah, exactly. It's much shorter, but being constrained, to the human condition ever since, it's definitely adjusted my perspective a little bit. So I feel like I've definitely come down, grounded myself a little bit more as the years have gone on. A lot less foreign than probably when you met me.
Yeah, I imagine you're probably fitting in a little bit better now with the whole military background and everything.
I've definitely gone incognito. I've infiltrated. I don't think they've noticed quite yet. So it's a good sign, I guess. I mean, it is what it is, right? But it's getting easier, I guess, more than anything else. But like I said, I mean, yeah, it's 26 years now, living here amongst you guys. It's like I said, it's straightened out or adjusted the perspective a lot. And it's still every now and then I'll catch myself in like, what is it that's common, I guess, about that type of like, like, I don't know, birthday parties used to be really weird to me when I first got here. You guys used to celebrate every second, or every year closer to death. And I always thought that was very interesting, your concept of time here.
We made one more rotation around our star. Woo!
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, it was unexpected. And every now and then, like I said, I'll catch myself in one of those situations, whether it's a pet dying or just death in general, I guess. It's very interesting the way you guys have. It's very cool though. Very very different. So I'm curious, and I like the change of pace. But yeah, I don't know how I got ranted on that.
Yeah. But I mean, I totally can feel it, man. Like I think, like, I would imagine, I guess I should say, that religion's probably a pretty weird concept for you. Because personally, and maybe I'm way off base, but I guess from my own personal experience, when I think about aliens, I think about a pretty logical kind of situation, and that's like the opposite of religion.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've discussed this a couple times before, and it's never not weird. It's the whole concept of. I mean, I understand where a lot of people gain benefit, but I mean, you know me, I know you. It's just it's such a strange concept to I don't know, to just the faith. I guess that literal definition of faith is just so foreign to me, especially when you have things like science here, on Earth. Like, you have math, you have logic, you have reason, and then you're just like, not when it comes to this. Fuck that.
I think people just want to say they know stuff. Like you were saying, the concept of death makes so many people uncomfortable that it's nice to have like a blueprint or some sort of at least idea of what happens after that. Because if not, I feel like some people would just be lost.
Yeah, for sure. You think that's like you were talking about with the like intelligence type of deal? Is it just where you guys are at in the evolution?
Yeah, it's weird, man, because I've talked to some people who are, like some of the smartest people I've ever met, and they're really religious. I think it's really a journey of, like, kind of personal enlightenment, and I've noticed that the smartest people who are involved in religion kind of keep it to themselves. It's really the lesser evolved ones who are like, oh, hey, have you heard of Jesus Christ, or like try my religion, or, like it's one of the 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins or something.
Absolutely. That's funny. That's a nice analogy. I even, I've considered that too. If my original species ever were to come down, or if they were still around, obviously they're long dead by now, but would they, how would they take it, being more of the biological, aspect of it? Would they be more inclined to, feel comfort or find comfort in that aspect? Like I said, that's probably just my artificial nature, like coming off, or my approach or perspective in it, because death means so much else to me versus the biology aspect of you guys. But I don't know, maybe, like I said, it's just the evolutionary crutch, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's movies, and there's been all these research papers about, like artificial intelligence and uploading your mind and your memories to the cloud, and so we're definitely looking for that way to move past our meat shells.
Yeah, and I feel like humanity is definitely going to get there. What do you think that'll do to religion? Do you think religion's gonna like hop over with it?
I mean, it's gonna have to adapt somehow, but it's gonna be weird, man. Like, you could be anyone you want in a chat room, so it's gonna change a lot. And then, the whole concept of personality is gonna be, we already have so many people, getting like facelifts and other plastic surgery. Like, imagine when you could do that for like your entire being. People are going to, obviously.
I mean, it's funny you bring that up. That's how I've integrated. I mean, all you got to do is trick a couple photons when it's projected out, and like you said, it's a completely different person in that chat room. And it's funny, that's kind of what humanity is already doing. I mean, is it not, with social media and all of these, extensions of yourself, or facades, I guess?
Yeah, no, definitely. There's, everybody has kind of like their online persona. Everybody's got to flex for the gram and make sure that they're posting up all their fun stuff that they're doing on Facebook so they can get likes from all the people in high school that they haven't actually talked to in years. It's at this point, I honestly think that people have so many like preconceived notions just because of that, and because of just so many other iterations in media, that I wonder, like, would they even recognize an alien? Like, not even in disguise, just boom, here's an alien. Or would people go, that's not a little gray man with big eyes? That's nope, over it.
So you think it'd be like a separation, like a disbelief, or?
Oh, I absolutely think that some people would have like a mental disconnect just because it didn't fit their mental box of what an alien should be. It wouldn't even click to them that, oh, that was an alien I saw today.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one here. There's likely been plenty of them, plenty of us here in multiple different galaxy origins. Like I always thought, it was humorous when I first landed that, like you said, everybody, humanity tended to think of aliens as like little green men, like you said, and I'm curious where that really actually originated from. Maybe I should do a little digging on that, but more, all of our
right.
aliens,
Who was that little guy who ruined it for you?
right? Well, the thing about it is, what aliens, what aliens has humanity sent out to the cosmos? It's all robots, right? It's all artificial. That's that's the first thing I encountered was, the Voyager. Why would humanity assume that it was going to be biological that landed first,
Absolutely. I think it's just hubris. That's because we're biological. It's like when you look at, not to circle back to religion, but when you look at God, he's a big, dude sitting on a cloud with a big white beard. Like that's the craziest thing that God could possibly look like. But we wrote the book, so that's how we wrote it down.
That's what we're saying.
No, and that's what I honestly, when you think about like what would an alien really look like, one of my favorite theories is virus or bacteria, something microscopic. You wouldn't even be able to see it. An alien invasion could be happening right now. Maybe that's why we're all stuck in our houses.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, that's like you said. Yeah, that's just the more a much more realistic and tangible outlook on it, right? Humanity has a great imagination, so that's all fun for the movies and whatnot. But realistically, yeah, there's probably if it hasn't already happened, right? Like maybe that's where viruses first started, or that's where mitochondria started. It was just a foreign invader that found it advantageous to set up shop here.
No, absolutely, and I'm sure that you've at least heard of the Fermi Paradox. But Enrico Fermi was a physicist. He actually is most famous for making the first nuclear reactor. But he was talking to people over lunch one day in the 50s, and he's like, where is everyone? It's statistically impossible for us to be the only intelligent life in the universe. What's up? And that's a great question.
Well, I'm very familiar with the Fermi Paradox, and it's always fun to entertain paradoxes in general, but there are a couple questions for it, right? Excluding myself, of course, or any other extraterrestrial that are already here. If we were to say that we were alone or that you are alone, because every species, I assume, reaches that point in their development where they're like, what the fuck, where they figure out math and science and physics, and they're just like, what's going on here? Although humanity hasn't quite figured it all completely out, and I was no scientist on my home world, so couldn't give any more insights to it. But but like I said, having said that, I think the answers or common answers to it of they see us and they think, why bother, right? Had I not just arrived the way in the manner that I did, and ultimately be predisposed to, I guess, fitting in or blending in or whatever, however you want to call it, I guess predisposed or designed to adapt here, would I even want to, would I bother? And there are days where I'm sure, like I said, any other extraterrestrial here would agree. Why bother with these psycho fucking apes? They build and then they destroy and then they build it back up and then they fuck and then they destroy it again. And why would any intelligent, especially intergalactic, galactic intelligence, why would they bother?
Well, and that's the thing. There's, like you were saying, there's a lot of different theories on it, and one of obviously the most prevalent is just that they are here. Obviously we're talking right now, and just most people don't know. They're either because of their preconceived notions or because they're hiding due to one reason or another. Some people even suggested, that it actually might be a good thing that we haven't had open contact with aliens yet, because maybe their whole thing is just destroying the most intelligent, advanced civilizations around, so they make sure that they stay on top.
Yeah.
So like you said, what if we're just so backwater that we haven't caught their attention yet?
Well, I mean, I'm sure if there was a species out there that was so, aggressive and out to destroy planets, then it would happen so fast in a manner that we can't even comprehend, basically, that, it's like, yeah, that's a shitty existential thought. But aside from that, hopefully very bleak, because what was it, Stephen Hawking, it's like, you look at any indigenous, population, as soon as the more advanced stepped on, onto that soil, that was the end, it was the beginning of the end.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, ultimately, again, I can only speak for myself, but myself being, probably the anomaly of the at least current situation. I mean, I imagine, and I'm sure many of extraterrestrials will agree that it's much more advantageous, just like anything else that you guys find here on Earth. It's much more advantageous to not blow shit up than it is to blow shit up. Like, it does have its place, and shit can blow up, and it's sometimes even fun, but as a whole, it's usually not very beneficial. So I feel like anything traveling the stars, in a fashion more deliberate and exacting than the one that I did, is probably evolved past that and sees something else besides that. Especially with time, I mean, going back to time with like explosion. Have you ever seen an explosion in slow motion?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Time is just this crazy thing that humanity seems to take, and myself take for granted, or I guess just assume is taken for granted. Like
it's like a weird construct that we just made up.
Right. It's just the immediate perception, right? I mean, our perception, I share it with humanity, is the second, right? 1, 2, that's our perception of time. But if your perception was even 1 second or, a millisecond off, or one way or the other, your entire outlook, what you would deem real or a lifetime, is completely different, And the lifespan of a bubble, is a couple seconds. But if that bubble was sentient and lived out the entire, this whole vast existence, what is the term? Sonder, I believe, where you put yourself in the mental, or in the shoes of something else, and you understand or acknowledge that they have their own ambition, their own complexities, their own failures and successes that they've lived out through all of the time that they've spent up to this point that you're seeing them and registering that. I mean, that like I said, all of that is based in that concept of time. It's something that it's always fun to think that if we experience time, half as quickly as we do, would we be the same? Would it be any different? Would humanity even exist?
Not to get super existential on you, but one of the things that always boggled my mind from the second I realized it is that, we're actually living fractions of a second in the past, because, our retinas have to process the images and get them to our brain, and then the brain has to make those electrical signals something that we know how to do. And so the images that we get to our eyes and to our ears are actually like fractions of a second behind when they're truly happening. And everyone's just adapted to living that way because that's how our bodies work.
Yeah.
But it's weird to think that everything is actually happening, just like you said, milliseconds faster than you think it's happening.
And all that could happen, like, the amount, like if you see a slow, an explosion in slow motion, those milliseconds are the difference between life and death, whether or not you see the explosion or you're vapor.
Yep.
So it is a crazy concept to realize that as well. And the same thing with perception, right? We experience, humanity experiences color, in this very specific spectrum, right? This wavelength of light that we and myself can understand or interpret is so minute and such a small sliver of what else is all out there. And other animals actually see those things, like a bee, or with with pheromones, for example, or ultraviolet light. There are plenty of
Yeah, the full on predator vision.
yeah, right, yeah. It's just crazy that this perception that we deem reality is, that we would bang on the table and say this is real, is 100% based on our own bias of perspective. And like you said,
oh sure, yeah.
well, like you said, most people probably wouldn't even recognize the fact, that they're seeing an alien, right? Or that an alien was here, right? So the invasion, in all likelihood, would be 100% invisible. It would come and pass like another day.
And that's actually what I was thinking. I have even here in my notes is that I have no idea what an alien would really look like, but I know for sure that they would blend. Through one way or another, either because they're really small, either because they can, bend the photons and adapt to their look. But one way or another, they would find a way to get through. And maybe their invasion that they had would be completely nonviolent. Like you were saying, explosions aren't always the answer, even though they're fun to watch in slow motion.
Well, that's
and so yeah, what if they're here? What if they just want like a fuck ton of followers?
well, that was one thing I identified really quickly. Well, I guess quickly in my perception of time, I guess, versus quick in a human lifespan. But it took me about 20 years to realize that, yeah, that's basically all there is to offer this planet. Like I said, I was no scientist on my home planet. I was just it was just a probe. It was just a program. Yeah, the first and only thing that I could really offer is companionship, right? Is just experience part of the human condition in a similar fashion for as long as humanity is here, And like you said, we have social media, which you guys are kind of integrating into, the artificial realm, which is exciting, I'm sure, for a lot of people, and maybe even scary for some. But I think that's it's inevitable nonetheless. So, like I said, I identified that as artwork is sort of that answer to it, that expression of emotionality that most people take for granted a lot of the time.
Absolutely, and artwork is another thing I think would be just a really kind of a strange concept to aliens, at least at first, because art's just super subjective already, and I can only imagine what art looks like across the galaxy. I know what your art looks like here after it's been filtered through kind of like the perspectives and the expectations of the people that you're living with. But I would love to see like, oh, here's art from my home world, and that's like what even, I bet I could see there are some things. I mean, there's some things I look at and be like, that's not art. You just nailed a banana to a wall.
Or taped it, right? I think I know what you're talking about
on
that one. I mean, that I never considered it, but as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, well, you ever seen those like DMT or like mushroom trip artwork pieces? That's basically what.
Yeah, I love DMT, Joe Rogan.
I mean, I feel like that's probably what at least part of some galaxy looks like, If that's something that most, I would say, people who don't do psychedelics or never have, that's something that they can never imagine, right? But it exists, and we've painted it and put it down to the best that we can. But like, yeah, I imagine if that was going to be, if we were to even get a sliver or a glimpse of what another galaxy's artwork might look like, it'd probably be at least one of them would look like that, I think.
There's got to be at least one fractal galaxy out there. I completely agree.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Again, we're all, it's hard to take yourself out of your own constraints, right? That bias of your own perspective, we're constrained by our own imaginations, by our own, reality that we exist in from day to day. But there's so much else out there that, it's like you said, it's just plain hubris to imagine that it'd be anything like us or think anything like us or, imagine anything like us. It's just hubris, I guess. Hubris and humorous.
Yeah. Well, from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah. I wonder how many humans share that perspective,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely some people who kind of just get out of their own way, so to speak, and it's refreshing, because there's the complete other side of that where we have like reality TV, with quotes around reality, where people just think drama is entertainment and they're just yelling at each other constantly. And it blows my mind because, there's so much out there. I don't have a problem with watching TV, but I like to watch stuff that actually enriches my life somehow. Mm-hmm. And I think that more people should do that.
I would agree in my own bias for sure. But I think it comes down to, like we said, just that stage of evolution, right? I think social media, I think, reality TV, whatever, art in general, it's a huge reflection, right? If you look at cave paintings from 10,000 years ago, they weren't depicting the same things that art attempts to depict today, So I think reality TV, as the example is brought up, is just another reflection of where humanity is right now, which is not refreshing, but you can sleep at night knowing that at least you are commenting on it, right? So hope isn't lost. It's not all lost.
Definitely. Yeah, no, that would be, it's nice that it's constrained to TV. That for the most part, in my experience, that's not actual reality.
Yeah.
And I think as long as it stays that way, like you said, there's still hope.
But I mean, yeah, all of that question of reality, right? Like, is this real? Are we real? What is real in the context of perspective? The podcast exists, and these electrical signals exist in one way or another, in this one form or another, and the concepts that we're discussing here exist. But are we just conspiracy theorists? Are we just crazy? The perspective of the listener is going to take that into account and be like, what the fuck are they talking about? So yeah, it always leads back to that like circular, a thought, that loop, right? Of, well, what is real?
Perception is reality for sure. And that's why people's experiences color, their outlook so much. You have people who have had these huge religious moments where they see God, and to them that's completely real. Just because I've never seen God doesn't mean that I can say that nobody ever has. And so I definitely agree that it's kind of, the reality is what you make it. And that's why having a positive attitude is so important. Because you have these people who, live every day just, spewing negativity. And I understand that things suck and that there are injustices. And it's really important to point them out, especially in a lot of the really more heinous situations. But I think it's wrong to just focus and just act like that's all there is in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. This, like I said, I noticed right away that there's a lot humanity has to offer, and like you said, there are plenty of shitty things, just like anything else. There's a contrast to everything, and there's a counterbalance in the universe, of entropy, right? Eventually, order will devolve into chaos. It's just that's the law. That's how it is. But like you said, focusing on that one fact or that one facet of the universe of existence is putting blinders on, basically, and nobody else wants to be around you.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, or you end up with just all the other blinded people, and they can't see that they're around other people half the time. So yeah, it leads to that kind of sheep mentality.
Yeah. Easy to solve the world's problems from a chair, right? But yeah, where the pen.
Well, it's like you've said on other episodes. We don't have the answers here. We're probably creating more problems, if anything.
And that's literally. I have it written down. We were kind of coming full circle, kind of with the what would an alien look like, but realistically, we're in all shapes and sizes, like you said. We're either you're not going to understand or acknowledge or be able to comprehend the existence or what you're actually seeing because we're not letting you, or you're not letting yourself. But for me personally, like I have no tech for you. I have no knowledge for you. I have nothing to offer humanity other than my opinion. And it seems like that's all humanity has to offer anything is their own opinion and occasionally blowing shit up.
and like I was saying before, when I think of aliens just as a generalization, I think really like logical, and you think like hyper intelligent and having all this stuff, and they have all these things to offer. But what if it's the exact opposite? You're just here looking for whatever knowledge that we have, and you really got commentary more than anything. And so it's super important to kind of open up your lens of how you look at stuff and how you think about things. Because, I think that an alien would definitely have a podcast for sure.
That'd be like day one, right?
Yeah, right. You got to get that voice out there. You got to get, like I said, you need as many followers as you could possibly get. We use these social media platforms to basically organize our lives at this point. And so, to really insinuate yourself in there, especially if it is the opposite, if your goal is to learn from people and not have anything for the people to learn from you, then getting into those deep corners and nooks and crannies, and I mean, Zuckerberg's doing it better than anybody.
I'm pretty convinced that he is from one of the other galaxies. Well, that's the thing too. What like you said, there is this concept of this vast knowledge or this logic that an alien might have, but the Voyager, for example, that was humanity's, and almost still is humanity's most advanced probe that they've ever sent out. That's the most advanced alien as far as humanity is concerned that exists out in the stars, that they've ever seen or could confirm or make a fact. So but having said that, the stupidity of whatever intelligent life is going to encounter or is going to view that as is this fucking tinfoil, crazy circuitry with a reactor, nuclear reactor in it as for power. They're going to look at that like, what the fuck is this? Like, maybe. Yeah,
no, if they're on a whole other level, it'd be like we just crushed a Coke can and threw it out the window on the way by.
Exactly. It's so the fact that, yeah, if we reversed it, right, and the Voyager came here and just, crash landed on the moon or something, what would we think of an alien's Voyager, right? We'd be like, well, I thought you were going to give us the secrets to the universe, but it turns out you're just a Coke can.
Yeah. Wait, I have this trash on Earth.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is funny, and I like exploring or introducing that concept for those that have never considered it, because it called me weird, but that's a lot of what I've considered while being here are these questions that that either don't get discussed or can't get discussed, or thus far I've only found in a small minority of humanity, right?
It's definitely important to remember that life in general is a two-way street. That everybody's gonna go up and down at some point or another, and that it's not all. There's no one ways. It's not like everything's going better from here. Some of these alien invasions are just like one lonely dude.
Yeah. Speaking from experience, for sure.
Exactly.
What do you think would happen afterwards for that then? Because obviously I can't tell the future. I can just we can just spew opinions here, but let's say tomorrow after this podcast gets published, right? Aside from the theatrics and the meta portion or concept that that we highlighted, what's the domino effect of an alien contact and first contact and the podcast that ensues from said alien,
I mean, it honestly depends on what that first contact is about. If it's a non-violent situation, if it is just a contact, like the way that we did with sending the probe out, it could start a lot of stuff. It certainly, I think, will start a huge amount of communication, and then a lot of us will be vindicated in these podcasts. Like you were saying, there's some people who are wondering if we're conspiracy nuts, and so they're definitely going to get their answer. But I think if it went even a step further than that, and aliens came to Earth and they really, what if they weren't super intelligent? What if they didn't have a whole lot to offer? What if they were just here? It makes me wonder, like, do aliens even care about being famous? Because if they did, they could be. Like, do people would watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
You think?
All day. I think so, absolutely.
I think
Especially because it's something, that's not, in a different use of the word, but it's completely alien to them. They have no reference for it at all. And I think that, that would, if they wanted to, aliens could just come down and be like the new class of celebrities.
I could definitely entertain that, see that happen. But I also, part of me, again, from experience, especially if it was less, it was more subtle and less overt, I think keeping up with the Cardaxa, whatever you had said, I think it'd last like a season, because people would immediately, humanity would be like, okay, yeah, the aliens came. It's been a year now. Nothing's changed. Why am I still care? Why do I still care? Like the Kardashians have the bonus, or the addition of plastic surgery and, added drama and marriages to Kanye West, while, an alien probably would just like come down, as I have, and start drawing and, commenting on how weird humanity is. That's basically it. I feel like, I wonder how high, at least in that context of celebrity, they would ever, achieve, or how quickly the masses would get bored with it,
I think just like any other celebrity, it depends on the personality. You've got people who are content to just kind of sit back and kind of quietly observe and make the commentary and do the stuff. And then you have the people who just want to be the center of attention. And maybe that's why they came in the first place, is because their planet was either too overpopulated or too underpopulated. And they're like, hey, we can come here. We can get this attention that really, that drives us for one reason or another. And I think it'd still be interesting. Alien plastic surgery, I bet, is probably just as wild. You've seen Total Recall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, it's hilarious that you bring it up.
But realistically, it probably would be a little bit more covert. And I think that's, like we were talking about earlier, how they could be, viruses or microorganisms. Like, what about a computer virus? What if you look at it from the digital aspect? Especially when, we do use all these different things online and on electronics to organize our whole lives. And so, by being a computer virus, they'd be able to get in really deep and kind of just take in all that information and then determine what it means from there for whatever their purpose was. And I think that that's probably a more realistic.
The first thing they're going to see is a lot of porn. That's the number one thing they're going to see.
Oh, I didn't know they were going to my computer.
No, that's 99. No, that's 100%. Let me just let me say it now. It's 100% of like any digital footprint out there. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that I found as soon as I hooked up to your planet's World Wide Web, was that you guys really like to fuck, apparently. And film it.
It's true. It's true. And yeah, that's, I think, really it just has more to do with, like, it's a connection. And, people want to have that intimate connection, and a lot of times they just don't even want to put the work in. And so, it's a quick 10 minutes.
Wow, that's 9 more minutes than I expected.
I mean, I don't know what the average is.
No, I mean, yeah, I definitely agree. That's definitely that seeking of connection. Like I said, that's the first thing I noticed or wanted or, agreed with. It was that, this companionship and this connection, this expression was, like you said, it's for whatever reason, it's that drive, that a lot of us have. It's that drive to connect, that drive to share, that drive to hopefully make better and improve on, and whatnot. It's for whatever reason, it's there for us,
It's just make sure that we can keep the base urges of eat, fuck, and blow stuff up. Because if we didn't have any of those finer things, then we would just be screwed.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why they exist, right? And we're completely we're completely overanalyzing it, and these are just excuses that, like you said, keep us from killing each other or fucking each other. It's funny. I see that a lot in the military. It's like what can we do today? And more than half of the time, the answer is, well, we can get drunk and we can fuck. Those are like the two number ones. It's like, all right, well, what else can we do? Well, we can shoot somebody. I guess that was supposed to be on that list somewhere.
You're either going to kill the boredom or you're just going to kill somebody else.
Either way, we're not going to be bored anymore. So
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? So yeah, I would agree that after well, let's take it a step further then. Like, what would happen after? Because we're talking about this now, and there was that latest what was it, the CIA, or I think it was the CIA, declassified, like 3 million some archived files on this and that. And one of them was like on, UFOs and like psychic experiments that they had conducted, and then of course you go into the MK Ultra and down that rabbit hole, right? What let's take it like a step further, right? And say that you and I are talking about this now because it's just the next step of the inevitable introduction of this idea, right? So that when the zoo comes crashing down, or then the fences are lifted and the little green men steps out and is like, all right guys, we're actually here, people aren't losing their shits, right? It's like a slow drip.
I get what you're saying. Absolutely. Instead of just forcing it on them all at once, you're kind of tearing the Band-Aid off nice and slow.
Exactly. I mean, do you think that, how realistic do you think that is?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And that's like, we've already discussed that aliens are participating in media, and how media is painting the way that people preconceive what aliens look like and how they interact and what they do. And so there's no reason to think that that's part of the drip feed, just like we're here talking right now, to kind of just warm people up to the idea, and at least make it so they give it a chance. Because, I mean, here stateside, if we just go for our guns immediately. So,
yeah.
So, that's, if there's not actually a threat, I could see how maybe they're trying to warm us up to the idea
that it's
before introducing everything. Just, because there's no need for the active panic and chaos, and it's still going to be that way for some people. There are some people who freak out over all kinds of different stuff. Here we're having protests over the stay-at-home orders, because, people they're just completely over it. They're done being cooped up. You can only keep stupid at bay for 8 weeks.
That's the time limit that we just found.
Yeah, we set a new record, I think, honestly.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, that's the bitch of it, though, isn't it? It's like, what? I don't know. What was it? The chicken or the egg? Was it the stupid first, or was it the overreach of power that created the stupid? And we already tried it once with when they first broadcast War of the Worlds and people lost their shit. We already knew
exactly.
we like I said, we tried it a couple times now. So I think the slow drip, especially like we were talking about with time perception, right? If an extraterrestrial came down and their perception of time was 100 years 100 human years is a day for them. Even their literal introduction, like just waving hello, would be so delayed to us, and we would never be able to conceive it or perceive that, action, that the slow drip more, could even be just them, actually introducing themselves. It's just taken to us so long, and over the last 100 years to what we would consider
right.
Slow
We're just
drip.
Wondering, where did this statue come from?
Yeah.
And then, finally somebody's great-grandkid noticed, hey, I think it moved from where it used to be in the pictures.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Oh, well,
holy shit, this thing's alive.
That's plate tectonics. Don't worry about that, kid. That's conspiracy theory. I mean,
no.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just like you were talking about with declassifying stuff, just recently I was reading something about how I think it was the Navy just confirmed that UFOs exist, which I thought was the stupidest article ever, because unidentified flying objects have existed for a long time. If I throw a dildo across the room and it hits you in the head, you just got hit with an unidentified flying object if you didn't see it coming.
Exactly. I mean, well, I totally hear you on that one, that it is it's so dumb, it's hilarious, but at the same time, it is interesting that we have, introduced the idea at least enough, or got to the point as, humanity has got to the point where a major power entity has to acknowledge said thing, or has to at least pretend to be like, it's a thing. Especially, have you seen?
Well, and that's back to that slow drip, just, yeah, UFOs are real, and then you can just stop right there. You said the thing without elaborating and blowing people's mind about how, there's all this crazy technology that exists, and flying saucers are whipping around everybody's head and no one knows. So I think that, that would freak people out if you told everybody that. So same thing, just be like, UFOs are real.
Well, maybe that's what.
And then next year you can be like, look at this thing we found, and then just trickle it out.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think maybe that's half of the conspiracy agenda, right? Is to introduce just enough doubt into the conversation to where, even if you did acknowledge that UFOs existed, or that, this is this spacecraft that defies gravity and all physics as we know it, this is a real thing. There's just enough doubt still in the masses for, half of them, or a large percentage of them, like, yeah, okay, sure it is. How, we don't trust you. and they don't panic, basically,
Yo, people would absolutely be shouting like, fake news. It's green screen.
Exactly. Just introduce enough doubt, just enough to.
But that's the thing, is anything green screen, or have aliens just completely taken over Hollywood?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if all of our perceptions are biased based on our own, potentially fallible facts that we hold to be
definitely
true.
Fallible.
So yeah. At the end of the day, exactly. Is the sky? Are we actually flat Earth? Right? Is the sky fucking green screen? I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
Okay, we're not flat Earth though. I'm gonna die on that hill. And it's a hill. It's not flat.
Yeah. Well, being from off planet, and then having to arrive, I approached it as a dot, and then I saw it grow from a dot. Unless it's a very convincing flat green screen, even at a light year or more away. It's definitely a globe.
That's true. You entered the simulation as soon as you got close enough.
This galaxy, this whole the universe, right, is a simulation, right? It's actually more probable that it is one, right?
I mean, that's what they're saying now. That mathematically, like at the rate that we're developing different AI and algorithmic stuff, that it makes more sense that we're just living in a huge simulation.
Oh God, so. You made two things with that. Like, one, when I first heard that, 20 years after landing, I was like, oh, of course. Like, and then there is of course the those little facts. One of them is like irrational numbers, right? Now that's maybe a fallible construction that we've invented, but the fact that we have irrational numbers might hopefully hint, at least thus far, that it's still not a simulation. If we reach the end of that irrational number, like pi actually ends one day, oh fuck, okay, it's probably a simulation. But it reminds me of a salvia trip I once had to get into drugs. It is that trip. This trip alone was the one that really like took my perspective and turned it. Like, obviously it was kind of like we were hinting, like we said, slow dripped, or introduced different perspectives and ideas, but salvia was the one that was just like, nope, and slaps you with a new perspective. And mine was,
salvia's rough.
It definitely can be, absolutely. And I'm not planning on doing it anytime soon again, but because it was so goddamn profound. But when I came back from it, the first thing I could describe it as is, my entire existence, right? This whole universe was like a giant's clenched fist. And as soon as that salvia kicked in, he just opened his fist, and all of the molecules, everything that is universal in this existence here, completely opened up, and this whole other, realm blossomed. And coming back from that, you're just like, holy hell, that literally could be, again, coming back to like time perspective and, what we have as our own biases, right? Is this entire existence, our concept of time, our concept of reality could be a blip in a giant's palm, or, a bubble underneath an ocean in a infinite sea of universal bubbles, right? Like our entire concept, everything that we're constrained by, everything that we base our existence on, could be, and more likely is, something that is much different and far, far larger or even smaller than we could possibly fathom. Like we just cannot imagine it. And until you have a perspective slap like that, you just can't appreciate it. You can't, more than likely cannot imagine it.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it was just the programmer of the simulation. You got to watch him open his hand and be like, here's the next project I'm working on.
And then he was like, oh, put him back in.
Oh yeah, no, I got to put you back here though. Yeah, you can't be here for too long. You'll mess things up.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. I definitely agree. You look around and you see some things that are illogical, or like the irrational numbers, and I think people mess up sometimes. They put a comma where they meant to put a period, and they're making things. Because I see stuff and it just doesn't make any sense to me. That makes me wonder, well, like, this is something that someone who was just simulating universe might have missed. They might not have caught up on. Like, why do hot dogs come in packs of 6, but then buns are 10 packs? Makes no sense.
That is the great question of the universe.
So then I have to sit there and do math and be like, okay, so I have to buy 5 packs of hot dogs and then 3 packs of buns for everything to work. Like,
it has to be
if a train is approaching St. Louis at 76 miles an hour.
See, those instances it has nothing to do with the simulation. They were 100% intentional from those outside the simulation, so that math teachers could write down word problems to confuse their students.
So they could make up dumb word problems.
Exactly. And it also just solidifies the notion of communal bonding, right? If you know you got to buy 30 of them, you got to at least invite some friends over. We got to pass
right, exactly. You have to have a barbecue, or you're that weird guy with a fridge full of hot dogs.
Yeah. It's either a really happy time or a really sad time, right? You're inviting friends, or you're by yourself with 30 hot dogs.
Right, you're just not even heating them up.
Just frozen, just sucking on
crying.
Oh man.
Keeping up with the Kardashians.
Kardashians, I like that. I mean, that if there's ever gonna be one of those ironic twists to the end of life, right? Is in 5, 20, whatever years we're watching intergalactic cable with Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
That would be awesome. I would demand some royalties.
Well, would that be your turning point where reality TV finally got you? Like when it was just humans, you were like, "Excuse me, I'm into the finer things." But as soon as it gets that alien, that green guy on screen, you're like, "All right, I see what all this was about."
Okay, I completely understand this show now.
It all clicks for you.
No, the second that happened, I'd be like, okay, this is definitely a simulation.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I'm telling you, man, you just a couple hard, a hard psychedelic trip will like reaffirmate, like, holy hell, I've known nothing. I know nothing. I wonder what other extraterrestrials would experience with humanity's intoxicants, with Earth's intoxicants, right? Like everybody has a different trip, and everybody, experiences a little bit of a different high, or drunk or whatever. I wonder what that would look like, seeing a little green guy, wasted.
Right? Or would it be like Bender from Futurama? They just live on alcohol. They just must consume ethanol to survive, like we do with water.
That's a good point. Like,
but water fucks them up.
Yeah, exactly. They have a totally different biology, so the H2O is their ethanol. or something so like innocuous, like fucking carbon dioxide or something, right? Or they just take a high altitude a dip every now and then, and they just come back like, oh, I saw God, man, you wouldn't believe it, on the top of Everest. There's God.
I was gonna say, in that case, Colorado would still be everybody goes to get high then.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's just the epicenter of planet Earth. Maybe we just haven't. Maybe we're just rediscovering this. Maybe it's just been known that portion of that continent is is the epicenter for
It's the best place to be.
yeah, mind expansion. There we go. Speaking of which, is it? I was reading that I had heard. Well, this maybe a couple months old now. Is that psilocybin is now decriminalized?
In some places, in Colorado, and then I think in Michigan. Which is
exciting.
super cool.
Yeah, that excites me for sure. I mean, the possibilities of psychedelics. There's a good one on Netflix right now. Not to plug things that I'm not sponsored for, but there's a good one on Netflix of like Have a Good Trip. If you haven't checked it out yet,
I will definitely check it out.
It's Ben Stiller is like, yeah, I did it once, and I realized it was acid. I think it was his. Never had to do it again. And then like literally every other person in the interview, it's like, it was amazing. I had this life, profound. I've done it, 50 times, all this stuff.
Exactly. This is a whole new tradition for me. I found my real religion.
Yeah. Yeah. Check it out. And listeners out there, check it out for sure. I mean, yeah, we went, I don't know. Did we go full circle? Invasion, looks of an alien, after effects of an alien. Got a little meta with it.
And partying with the aliens once we're all done.
That is honestly a very realistic. I'm being 100%. That is a realistic scenario because something that is so foreign, like an alien coming down here. Yeah, birthday parties would be strange at first, and sex would be strange at first, especially if they're artificial and they're not biology based. All of those things obviously would be very strange. But I guarantee you, as soon as they see people token up, they're like, all right, what is going on here? What is this? Give me some of that.
Right. I assume it's the same universal hand signal just across the galaxy.
It is a
because I've seen it transcends languages. I've been around the world, and everybody knows that holding the joint to your lips signal means we're about to go smoke some weed.
That's the one of the finer or the high points of humanity, right? All of the, like I said, is setting aside all the bad that exists regardless in the world and the universe. It's just, like you said, that universal hand signal. Just you don't have to speak, you don't have to know each other's language, but you know exactly what that means. One of the better parts. Now we just need one for like, dropping acid or something, right?
Right. Yeah, that would be hard to, because like you said, it's different for everybody. So it'd be hard to find a good universal signal.
I imagine as soon as you light something on fire, like it is going to get somebody's attention. So fire could just be the universal language.
Right? Just.
Or maybe that's just the blow shit up looks cool mentality.
Right? Hey, that means people will be on board though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We like the way it looks, that's a comment. Yeah. Oh man. I mean, yeah. And for the listeners that don't know, I'm obviously, you're civilian. So you have a little more breathe room or, wiggle room, excuse me, with what we're talking about here. But, it's funny. What contrasts do you draw? Because you're the first one that's been on the podcast that isn't in the military. What's the contrast you've drawn, especially because you saw me, arrive, and now you've seen me blend, I guess, or integrate. What contrast?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm honored to be on the cast. First of all, I really appreciate being the first civilian that's here. And it's definitely, like you said, I've known you for so long that I've seen a lot has changed, and then a lot's still the same. Like at the base level, you're still the same guy. You're still Hermes. But then, like you said, you've got, now that you have to do this and you're in that full incognito mode, you blend in a little bit more, and there's that, you fall in line and do what you're supposed to do, which is definitely a little different from the guy I went to high school with.
Yeah, I didn't.
But not in a bad way. And that's something that I just personally couldn't ever do. I'm good at giving orders. I'm not great at taking them.
Oh, for sure. Maybe that's why I have a fucking podcast and it has to be anonymous in the military. Is because that guy, like you said, is still in there. He's still in there. No, totally. That rebellious streak is still alive and well. Yeah.
And I think it's awesome. I think it's great that there is this platform for people to be able to talk about whatever they want and branch out and have the required, anonymity to feel safe about it, because people need that. I think that's another reason why social media and everything is so popular. It's because you could create a persona that's not who you are at all and be able to express yourself and the things that you feel like you don't get to talk about on a day-to-day basis. And you get to find your audience. You get to find your personal tribe and kind of get in and be a part with them.
Yeah, which is one of the cooler things of, I mean, like we said, there's plenty of contrasts with the internet or with life, but yeah, that connection in starting the podcast was a big selling point, I guess, in my own mind to myself was, there's some, I was looking for a podcast that spoke to me and I didn't find it. So is there someone else out there, especially, if there's another alien out there that did feel as disconnected, hopefully, like I said, some benefit, right? Something could come of this other than just a bunch of shit talking, right?
Yeah, I forget the quote, but I'm sure somebody down in the comments will drop it and make me look like a dummy. But it basically is something along the lines of, write the book that you want to read.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, if you can't find the story that you're looking for, then make it. Put it out there for other people to find, because you're probably not the only one looking.
Exactly. Like, yeah, and like you said, it is awesome that this actually exists, I mean, 25 years ago when I first landed, it didn't exist, so it was barely, I remember the sound. I thought that was your guys's, your language was the dial-up tone. I thought that was your hello for the longest time.
That must have made for an awkward first date.
Made for an awkward, childhood for sure. First time you go to what you guys call kindergarten and you spout off the dial-up tone. But no, I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say you could have been famous. You could have been like that guy from Police Academy.
Or which is what I instantly got the vibe of, is that I was gonna get put somewhere a little less, or maybe more comfortable. I don't know, a little less.
Right? Yeah,
ideal.
Plenty of padding.
Exactly. Which may still be in the future. No, I mean, yeah, it is awesome though that this exists, and especially if others, if just like myself, get inspired and decide to take the amazing technology that humanity does have, and like you said, write that book that they want to read. It's fucking awesome. Come full circle. You wanna? I mean, yeah, like I said, we've come full circle. You wanna do any plugs?
Yeah, man. I guess if people are looking to reach out to me, or if they want to listen to me talk more or find out more of what I'm about, I've got a couple of different social media pages. I've got @Premium Sport Customs on Instagram, which is just exactly what it sounds like, and I'm sure you'll drop links to everything down in the description as well.
Absolutely.
And then I've got my Action Cam Experience page. I think it's just Action Cam X on YouTube. And we're posting up lots of cool videos there. There's all kinds of really fast-paced, kind of exciting stuff. And that's really a better place to kind of reach out and get to know me. If anyone wants to send me a message or something, absolutely feel free. I'm always available, and I'll definitely respond.
Fuck yeah, dude. I mean, speaking of action cams, I mean, you made me fall in love with snowboarding. So if that's something anybody's interested in, you check out a couple of those videos. They'll get you real hungry for some white powder after that. I love it.
Yeah, our season ended early with all this virus bullshit, and I actually went up and hiked a couple runs after that because I was like, man, I need more.
Yeah, man, it's been years for me, so I'm missing it like you wouldn't believe. So hopefully
I've heard the snow's pretty good there.
Yes and no. I mean, we can hit on it after we get off the air, but yeah, it's a hit or miss, but nonetheless, I do appreciate, like you would not believe, I've said it a million times, I'll say it a million more times. Appreciate the fuck out of you, man. Thanks for all the help. The tips so far for the podcast have been phenomenal. The one episode, I'm really excited to see the feedback of this one. So yeah, those are the plugs. I mean, reach out to us on all the major platforms. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all of the major platforms. Yeah, find me on all our social media. Reach out to me. Reach out to my buddy Theron here. Awesome dude. We're definitely going to do this again. So look forward to it. And again, appreciate the fuck out of you, man.
Thank you so much for having me, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. One more thing is don't kill the messenger, ladies and gentlemen.